Welcome to the sugar-free subreddit. Most people find this community because they think, I should cut sugar. They treat it like sobriety a bit. That's not wrong, it's just incomplete. Because what you've stumbled on isn't really a diet, it's a metabolic control system. The more you understand what's going on under the surface, the more successful you'll be, not only in controlling sugar and its cravings, but in meaningfully improving your health, and even doing so in a way that starts to feel effortless. Quick introduction. My name is Chris. I'm one of the moderators here. The goal of this video is very simple. It's not to help you avoid sugar. It's to help you reach the real win, good health, and freedom from cravings. So this becomes normal, sustainable, even quiet. Most people start sugar-free with a model that sounds like this. Sugar is bad. I'm going to stop eating it. And if I slip, I failed. That model creates two problems. First, it turns us into a moral battle. Discipline, identity, shame cycles. And second, it hides the real mechanism. So you don't understand why the early phase feels awful, or why some people never feel liberated even after months. So let's upgrade the model. Sugar doesn't just add calories. It changes cellular energy in a way that can make you hungry, tired, impulsive, and obsessed with food. That's why quitting can feel like quitting something addictive. It's not psychologically, it's biologically. Here's the core idea without jargon. Most people hear the word sugar and they think it's one thing. It's not. Table sugar is roughly 50% glucose and 50% fructose. A helpful way to think about this is a funnel. Glucose is the fuel that flows through the funnel. It's what cells actually use to make energy. Fructose controls the pinch point of the funnel. It regulates how much of that fuel is allowed to make usable energy. And so here's the problem. That pinch point is largely unregulated. The more frequently you're exposed to fructose, the tighter the funnel gets. And at first, energy just slows a little bit. But over time, it slows to a drip. As energy availability drops, the body starts interpreting this as danger. It doesn't think I'm eating too much sugar. It thinks we're running out of fuel, and so it reacts. It says seek food, conserve, crave. And that's why cravings feel loud and irrational. Your brain isn't negotiating with you about some dessert. It's responding to an energy bottleneck. So the key takeaway is simple. Glucose is not the problem. Fructose tightens the funnel. When you reduce fructose exposure, you release the bottleneck. And then once energy starts flowing again, everything begins to shift. Cravings quiet, energy stabilizes, control returns. This is chemistry and signaling, not character. Let's get practical. Early on, you're going to run into a predictable problem. Since sugar signals fuel conservation, keep in mind that when you cut sugar, you also remove a major fuel source. Many people interpret this as withdrawal or failure. It's really just a glucose gap. Here's how to bridge it without going back to sugar. Don't fear glucose in whole food form. If you quit sugar and go extremely low carb immediately, you will almost certainly make this transition harder than necessary. Dial down fructose, but initially increase your whole food starches if they help you stabilize energy earlier. Think potatoes, rice, oats, legumes, depending on whatever works for you. Just don't go for candy, juice, liquid sugar, not fructose, complex carbohydrates. This is not about perfection. It's just about maintaining stability in that early period. Next, hydration is not a wellness cliche. Mild dehydration can actually push the body into conservation signaling. So don't run sugar-free while chronically underhydrated. Water, consistent, especially if you're active, higher protein, or using caffeine. You'll need a break glass tool. There will be moments that you feel like you're going to snap. Have an emergency tool that isn't sugar. Some people use a small amount of MCT oil as a rapid fuel source because it provides ketones. This isn't an all-day, everyday thing, just a bridge, not a lifestyle. Check the basics. Some sugar cravings are misidentified signals. You can ask, did I sleep? Did I eat enough protein? Am I hydrated? Am I using food just to medicate stress? There's no shame, just debug. There's way more nuance here, but this is a great place to start. Just focus on cutting added sugars because of the fructose, replacing your lost glucose, and hydrating well. Now let's peel back another layer. Here's the part that isn't widely known yet. Even if you remove obvious sugar, your body can still generate fructose internally. This is called endogenous fructose. Common triggers include alcohol, dehydration or chronically low fluid intake, large hits of high glycemic stress, stress states that push the body toward conservation. So someone can be sugar-free and still struggle. It's not because they're weak, it's because the pathway is still being stimulated. And this is why some people feel free in week 3, and other people are still suffering in month 8. They're missing the map. Think of what this means for a minute. Salty food, carbs, alcohol, dehydration, poor sleep, stress, they all trace back to fructose. For decades, they've represented various camps arguing diets because they correlate with weight gain. They all do. But guess what? They're all correct because they all allow the body to make fructose. And what does fructose do? Pinch your cellular energy production. So then what's the real goal? It's not actually restricting sugar. Restoration of cellular energy. When cellular energy returns, cells can repair and clean out stress and inflammation. The cells stop signaling emergency cravings, and the body has more energy. And our lowest level machinery starts performing well, which improves metabolic health broadly. Fructose is not the only drag on cellular energy. It just happens to be the most universal and the most modifiable. When cellular energy is finally restored, an amazing thing happens. Sugar becomes optional instead of magnetic. You gain incredible agency over your diet. The mind quiets, the cravings lift, and energy skyrockets. In other words, it stops being a fight. That's the end game. Sadly, some in this community never hit this stage, in spite of amazing effort. If you've never felt freedom from cravings, you might not even believe it's real. It is. It feels like food getting quieter. You can be around sweets without negotiating. Energy stops swinging wildly, and you stop thinking about your next hit. That's the state you're aiming for, not, I resisted, but I don't want it. At this point, most people run into a hard truth. Modern life makes perfect restriction hard. Sugar is everywhere. And so are social situations. Stress, travel, poor sleep. And even with the best intentions then, total control through restriction alone kind of starts to break down. This is where deeper understanding becomes useful. At this point, it's also important for me to be transparent. I work as a metabolic researcher in this space. This is genuinely my area of focus, and it's an exciting time because this work is helping to uncover a model of metabolic dysfunction that sits upstream of so many familiar problems, one that's centered on cellular energetics. Because of that, I need to clearly declare a competing interest. We are actively deriving protocols and supplements from the established biochemistry that I'm talking about here. That's precisely why you shouldn't take what I'm saying on trust alone. Pressure test it, experiment, try to even prove it wrong. With that context in place, here's the science. Fructose influences cellular energy through a specific metabolic step, one that's governed by an enzyme called fructokinase, often shortened to KHK. This enzyme acts as a gatekeeper. If fructose passes through it, the downstream effects follow. If it doesn't, then fructose is largely excreted, unchanged. Because of this, KHK has become an active area of research. Large pharmaceutical companies, including Pfizer and Eli Lilly, have invested heavily in KHK modulation in human trials aimed at metabolic disease. Alongside pharmaceutical research, one naturally occurring compound appears frequently in the scientific literature: luteolin, a plant flavonoid found in foods. Preclinical research suggests that luteolin can influence KHK activity. Parallel human clinical data, while indirect, also points in the same direction. This is not a cure or a magic switch, but it's biologically aligned with the goal of reducing fructose-driven energy stress. Now, importantly, luteolin is not proprietary or patentable. It is widely available, and bioavailability and sourcing matter. Some people pursuing sugar-free strategies report that luteolin appears to shorten the timeline to reduced cravings and steadier energy, even without perfect dietary control. And that alignment is what makes it interesting, not any single claim. As with any supplement, if you're on a medication, managing a condition, or you're pregnant, treat this as an experiment and consult someone qualified. This is an active area of research. The evidence space is growing, but not settled, which is exactly why skepticism and self-testing matter here. I'll share one more data point. I've used this overall strategy for about 3 years. I started noticing a dramatic shift after about 3 weeks. And much later, I still have the same benefits that people chase while they're living sugar-free. Stable energy, no cravings, improved metabolic health, but I'm no longer afraid of sugar. If it's worth it socially, I can have some and then just move on. Doesn't make me special. I say this because the goal shouldn't be endless restriction. It should be metabolic resilience. And if we do that in a way that makes it feel effortless and sustainable, then we finally won. Let's review so you can make this super actionable today. Start by reducing all added sugars, but don't forget to prioritize hydration and increasing your complex carbohydrates, especially at first. After a few weeks, start paying attention to some of the other ways the body tries to get a hold of fructose. Maybe alcohol cravings increase. Maybe high glycemic carbs, salty food. Maybe it's even your sleep quality. And if you wish, try experimenting with buffering fructose metabolism directly, such as using liposomal or high bioavailability luteolin. See if it improves the timeline, gives you a buffer, or just makes the whole thing sustainable. Because you're not just quitting sugar. You're learning how a metabolic pathway controls cravings and energy. And once you understand that, you can build a plan that doesn't lead to endless restriction, but to freedom.